which are law enforcement, firefighters, EMS, emergency medical technicians, people who are willing to sacrifice sometimes their very lives in order to help people around. And I think it's important that we make a note of that, and I think it's important that society reflects that. But what about people who are operating with hidden agendas? What about individuals who target certain groups because they're teenagers, because they're Hispanic, because they're black, because they live in poor communities, and they target them for certain types of enforcement that if they will apply those same techniques in other communities, there would be such a public relations outcry that, you know, that behavior would change. So again, those are some of the topics here, everything in a way to give everyone an opportunity to talk about some of the issues that are very important. This whole idea of racial profiling began, just to give you a little historical background, well, I shouldn't say began, but really got into focus with a term called the pretextual stop. I think it's important to be educated as members of the community. In the law will say that ignorance of the law is no excuse. Just because you didn't know something, just give me an idea of some of the circumstances that happened that you felt was unjust. Yes, ma'am.
Well, it wasn't me, but I had the interaction with the police chief. I have a son that was in high school, and during the time that he was in high school, we decided, my husband and I, this is my husband here, we had a little bit of money, so we bought a Porsche. And my son drove the Porsche down the boulevard, and immediately he was stopped, because what was a Hispanic doing in a Porsche? So
The exact words were, "What's someone like you driving a car like this?"
So then I went to the police station and spoke with the police chief, and we got it all straightened out. But there was many problems with that vehicle.
You know, crosses a lot of different boundaries, but did you know that there are a lot of people of different ethnicities, different races, who won't buy certain cars because they know they're going to be pulled over. They won't dress certain ways because they know they're going to be pulled over, and they won't go through certain communities because they know they won't be pulled over. You know, I taught a class a couple weeks ago in Indiana, and I met a sergeant who had himself been a victim of profiling. Let me tell you a little bit about his story, and then we'll go on. He worked for the state police in Indiana. We talk about language. We talk about strong family values. I said, great. Tell me a little bit about Irish culture. Well, we talk about community. We talk about family. You know, a lot of common threads there. But when I asked, tell me about American culture, the room gets silent. And I asked myself, you know, why is that? Can we not identify what is American culture, or is American culture a combination, a molding of all of our cultures? Yes, sir.
You hit right on the dot. When you ask American, you're asking for someone to pick one singular spot.
Only to bring the hammer down, to kick a door in, to lock people up, to profile, if you will, then there's a problem. And that's a big problem. And again, just as you speak of the community you were involved in, I hear this all around the country. That there are many communities that the neighbors, the residents, believe in their heart that the police do not give the same level of service. Years ago, the concept called COPS came out, and it goes by different acronyms, you know, community-oriented policemen. We want the police officers out of the cars. We want them interact. We want more foot activity. Because you could be, I know in St. Louis we were so call-driven, call. You never had time. And then the attrition rate, the fact they weren't hiring enough cops, it impacted. So guys were traveling around just call-driven, never having an opportunity. But when you lose that relationship, if we look back years and years ago, when police officers walked the beat, when they knew the kids in the neighborhood, sometimes knew them by name, when they knew the business owners, when they knew the religious leaders, when they could say, yeah, something's out of place here. When people in the community would say, Officer Smith, can I talk to you? You know, these new people who moved down the block, I think something's going on. Cops in action. That was officers who took the time to get out of their vehicles, to interact with the community in a meaningful way. Now we fast forward that, and I'm not saying there aren't guys out there who aren't doing that, because there are. But there have been tremendous cuts in budgets. There have been layoffs. There have been some departments that, because of attrition, they don't have the manpower to do that. But the bottom line is we as citizens must ask ourselves is, what types of rights are we going to give up? Now, when these Israeli military, police, all these folks came over and taught us, we had the training on a college campus. And the first thing they asked us was, how can you live like this? You have no fences around the facility. There are no armed guards with dogs walking around. People are allowed to come and go. How can you live like this with people just coming in and out of this place? It is unheard of for this type of activity to occur in Israel. It's just incredible. We can't believe it. And my question was, how can you live like that? They told me that every day in Israel they have 10 acts of terrorism, they catch 8. 2 go or successful. Every day. Every day, 2 acts of terrorism are successful. Whether it's a suicide bomber or some other incident. Boy, I tell you what, if America ever comes to the point where we have suicide bombers running through our communities, it is going to change the way we live in such a way that it will just be incredible. Suicide bomber, we kill them. We shoot them down. We're not going to ask them. If we see a bulge, we get shot. We don't care. If we made a mistake, we made a mistake. But we're gunning them down. It's as simple as that. How would that act for law enforcement? For us to start gunning people down because we see a bulge. Shoot them. Oh, sorry, sir, your brother was killed. We thought he was a suicide bomber. He had to go. It would change the way we live. But we also talk about these issues of how we are surviving under certain issues of profiling in America. Like I said, the Supreme Court ruled that this issue of the pretextual stop was legal. But Washington State, as an example, said, you know what? We don't buy that. We don't want the pretextual stop in our state. So their Supreme Court said, we're not going to do it. Now, anyone who's familiar with the law and how things exist, understand that federal law supersedes state law. They reversed it. They said our state law is discussing in a meaningful way some of the issues. You know, when we talk about trying to bring about change, there are certain stages that you go through. Initial dialogue is one of the stages. Working on solutions, developing solutions, that's another step. And then implementing those solutions, that is another phase of it. It takes time. As I've said earlier, these conditions and situations did not happen overnight, and I seriously doubt if they're going to change overnight. But we are certainly moving in the right direction. The Pinal County Sheriff's Department has been very gracious having me out here, having an opportunity to work with their managers, to work with their supervisors down the road.